do all play, where I would bring in pre-duplicated boards for you on things that we have discussed previously. Rather than you wait around and see when these things come up when you're playing, we can force the issue and make some of these conventions come up, and then have you play some pre-duplicated boards, and then we look at them, maybe we get hand records of those boards, and probably usually kind of take them a couple at a time. So that may be one option, and certainly there are others that would maybe be geared toward not piling on yet more conventions yet, and waiting on that so that we don't have sensory overload. So that Diane doesn't have to listen to me babble about maximal doubles as she crawls into bed at night.
You have a second career.
Hoping that something somewhat subliminal will find its way in there and plan itself permanently. So
last summer we did The Last Guess.
Yeah,
That was a good class that this group might like.
that would be one. I'm considering I need to go through. Also, I'm going to be doing a short lecture at the regional, by the way. And I think it's scheduled for Friday of the week at the regional. I used to do this every year. I haven't done a lecture there for a few years. So I haven't picked my topic, and I need to figure that out. But I was thinking about something from that class. That's going to be pretty short. Those lectures are only like half an hour, but they do offer those free lectures in between sessions at the regional.
Where's the regional going to be?
So. Anyhow, just something to think about for now. We could talk about it more next time. It would be nice, maybe we can get some things kind of hashed out, before we go on our break, so that we don't have to resolve everything with emails and all that. So, but for today, did anybody need a handout? Did you? I thought I had one or two that probably came in.
Carol.
And you did one. Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to start by talking about end plays. And the end play is not, the handout you have is on squeezes, which is what we're spending most of today on. But I want to talk a little bit about end plays. So we're mixing it up a little bit. We're not going to worry about bidding today, and we're going to focus strictly on some play of the hand techniques that are very useful. And so because I didn't have a handout for you, I wanted to put up here a definition, and my guess is this is probably paraphrased from the Encyclopedia Bridge. I imagine that's where I got it. I don't remember exactly. But if you want to define what an end play is, essentially what you are doing is you're setting up a situation where you are leaving an opponent with no choice but to break a suit for you that you don't want to break yourself if you can help it. Now, we can't always orchestrate an end play, but if it looks like you have an opportunity to do that, it can be superior to other lines. And looking at a very simple position like this, where perhaps you have something like ace queen of a suit in dummy and just small cards in your hand, what if you need to try and get 2 tricks out of this suit? Well, you could take the finesse yourself, right? You could play small one toward the queen, and absent any other information, the statistics would say that 50% of the time you're going to get 2 tricks out of this holding. If the king is onside. If the king is not onside, your queen will get covered and you still have just your ace, and you only have one winner from that suit. And look, you're going to play some contracts where you're going to have no choice but to just do this yourself. Take the finesse and and hope that the card you need onside is in fact onside. But on occasion, you can create a situation where the opponents would have to break this suit. And in an ideal world, what you might try to do is put your right hand opponent on lead, and if that person is left with no other cards other than cards in this suit, they're gonna have to break that suit for you, right? And so if your left-hand opponent has the king, then they've taken the finesse for you. If this person has the king, that's the scenario where you really win, right? Because they were hoping that you would take a finesse, or that their partner would gain the lead and break that suit and lead through the queen so that they could score their king. But now they're in a position where they're compromised, right? If they have nothing left, obviously that would be staring at ace queen in the dummy, that would probably be this person's last choice of leads, right? They're gonna look for another suit if they have something like king third or king fourth in that suit. But sometimes you can set it up so that they have no other choice. Obviously what that involves is extracting every other card in other suits from their hand and leaving that person no choice. But if you do that, you have end played your right hand opponent. And so that's what the term means. And if you can get an end play to work, well, a finesse is 50-50. This is 100%, right? There's no way they're going to score multiple winners in that suit when they have to lead away from their king. And then sometimes, we run into a situation where you have, and this is what we would refer to as a two-way finesse. So if you're not familiar with what we mean exactly by a two-way finesse, well, you have the ace and king as well as the jack and 10 in a given suit. And one of the top honors, say the ace, is paired with the jack, although this could be the 10. The other top honor, the king, is paired with the 10, could be paired with the jack. And so we have a situation where you could, in theory, play either opponent for the missing queen, right? And you have a decision to make. You might get information if your opponents did any bidding that would give you a clue which opponent to play for the queen. Otherwise, it's a guess. You could also go with superstition. Barry Crane actually had some very strict rules that he followed. Which is strange because this is arguably the best match point player of all time, and usually people at that level are they're very well versed in the statistics, and unlike the rest of us, they can actually keep an exact count on a hand. They know your exact distribution, halfway through the deal, and so they are not inclined to superstition. And so what Crane used to say was, this is how you played for a missing queen. If the suit in question that you're dealing with was a major suit, the queen was always under the jack. In other words, you play the king first, and then you play small toward the ace jack. So the queen being under the jack, meaning the queen would be to your left here in this position. But if this suit was a minor suit, that the queen was always over the jack, meaning that you needed to play your ace first and then play small toward your king 10.
It's as good as things. Doesn't say anything.
So, and it's funny because there's, I don't know if it's still, I don't know if I can find it, it used to be online. Grant Bays, years ago, did some narratives on Barry Crane, and he talks about, because Barry Crane was quite a personality, extremely difficult partner, phenomenal player, by all accounts, as abusive a partner as they came. And not only did he have his superstitions about taking these finesses this way, if you were his partner, he expected you to play the hand the same way too. And Grant Bass tells a story about somebody who was, I think, a teammate of of Crane's, who a very good technician who got a count on the hand and had to find a missing queen in the spade suit, and knew that one opponent had 4 spades and that the other had 2. Well, what would the statistics say? Who's more likely to hold the queen? Person who has 4 cards in that suit, right? So he played it that way, lost to Doubleton Queen, and his partner said something like, just wait, soon you're gonna hear an explosion. And that's gonna be Crane going ballistic on his partner for technically playing the hand correctly and getting the position wrong instead of following the mandated superstition. But but all of that aside, we might have an option that is superior to any of those. Since none of those are actually guaranteed, we can go by statistics. I actually go by, it's funny, if I am playing a hand and I have a 2-way finesse and I can't create an end play and I don't have any information from the bidding and I don't feel like I count on the hand, it's like, okay, I've got to attack the suit and now I'm guessing. I feel like I have nothing to go on. Then I follow Crane's rule.
That's cute.
Because I figure it's as good as any at that point, right?
What
And it works.
percentage?
What percent of the time?
I don't know. I have not tracked it. It hasn't come up for a long time. So, but what is actually the best case scenario when you have a situation with a 2-way finesse? The best situation is that you let an opponent break the suit for you, because you are guaranteed 3 tricks in the suit when an opponent leads it, right? I mean, there's a big difference, and I think a lot of times people don't realize this. But even I would tell you, as a defender, sometimes I'm playing a hand, and here comes the opening lead, and it's in one suit, and my right-hand opponent wins the opening lead, and then they play a different suit back, and my left-hand opponent wins the trick, and now my left-hand opponent breaks a 3rd suit. When I declare, I love this. They're doing all my work for me. Nothing makes me happier than watching my opponents break 3 different suits on the first 3 tricks. So you should actually be loath to, from the defender's point of view, to continue to break new suits. I understand sometimes there's uncertainty. You're not, sure what path you're going down on defense and what exactly is the right defense until the hand develops. But one thing I can tell you is that the more suits you break, generally the easier you are making life for declare. And so, especially in a situation like this, whether your left-hand opponent breaks the suit or your right-hand opponent breaks the suit, are you not guaranteed of 3 tricks? Right? Because if left-hand opponent plays a card in the suit, you just simply play small and wait for the queen to appear on your right so you can cover it with the king, and everything else is good. And if this person has led away from the king, then your 10 will score the trick and you still have your ace-king remaining, right? So it'll work from either side. So that's really what you're after with an end play. You just can't always necessarily make it happen.
Kurt, could you explain often what a throw-in?
Yeah, what's a throw-in?
Throw-in means basically you are giving up the lead, and so the throw-in is you are putting an opponent on lead, and sometimes you have control. Yeah. Or sometimes you hope that as you give up that trick, that you get the person on lead that you want on lead. So, and that would usually take place as you are eliminating the other suits, right? And this can be done in no trump or in a suit contract. But if often your approach, say in a suit contract, would be to get trumps drawn and play some other winners, but then at some point you reach a point where, okay, I have to give up a trick here anyhow. This is a loser that I always have. I don't, then you give up that trick, and then maybe you give up that trick to an opponent who at this stage no longer has a safe exit. So that's what we mean by throw-in. You're just intentionally putting an opponent on lead And hopefully, when the position is like this, like if the position's like this, when you give up a trick, it doesn't matter which opponent you put on lead. Here, you actually have an objective, and that's to put this person specifically on lead. And you may or may not be able to control that part, but it doesn't hurt to try it.
Am I hearing you say that if I lead from my hand and right hand opponent plays low, I should deliberately lose a trick to left hand? In other words, play low, even if it's a trick I could have taken? Deliberately lose the tricks to put this guy on lead?
Well, if it's a loser that you have anyhow,
Yeah.
right?
Not if it's a loser. I mean, should I? Okay.
I think you were.
We're not
question
talking about conceding a trick that you don't have.
That's
to
what I'm
lose.
talking. Okay.
Yeah, we're
That's what
talking
I'm
about
asking you.
conceding a trick that
You know you can lose.
Yes.
that you
Okay.
have to lose anyway.
Okay. Okay. That was my
Like-
only question.
So let's say we're playing four spades, all right. And so as we are considering the four suits, and I'm not giving you a full, we will look at a full hand here in a moment, but not for this particular explanation. Okay, so let's say that spades are trump, and let's say that you've got, you know, a good club side suit. And so maybe you start off by drawing trumps so that your opponents don't ruff any of your side suit winners, and then you play, say, 4 rounds of clubs that are all winners, so that you've extracted from your opponents
Two of the suits.
you've eliminated 2 of the suits. All right, and so now let's say that hearts is the suit you don't want to attack yourself. All right, so let's say that you're facing something like that, where you have only the king of hearts. Now you could lead a heart up yourself and hope that the ace is on side. All right, but maybe a better alternative is, well, what if we play this third suit here? What if we play diamonds, where we have to lose a trick anyhow, and maybe our right-hand opponent will win the trick?
Let's say you have the king, queen, and you play the king, and they take the ace or something like that.
Well, in that case, they would have a safe exit, right? They can return the suit you led.
Yeah,
All right.
oh, that's true.
All right, but let's say the diamond holding is something like this. Let's say you have 3 in your hand and ace, king, third in the dummy, right? So the ace, king are sure winners, but you have nothing else, no intermediate that is going to get promoted into a winner, right? Well, a good thing to do on the play of the hand might be, okay, let's cash the ace and king, and then just play the third round of the suit. All right. What if the person on our right started with queen third? Well, they're going to win the queen of diamonds in the third round, but now they may have nothing left in their hand but hearts, right? Because that's the one suit that we haven't touched on this deal. We've taken away their trumps, we've taken away their clubs. Now we throw them in with the third round of diamonds. Maybe they have another diamond they can get out with, although in that case they might be giving you a rough slough that would be helpful to you. If they have hearts, and that's all they've come down to, well, they're either laying down the ace and setting up your king, or they're leading away from the ace, or their partner has the ace, in which case your king is favorably positioned anyhow, right? So does that make sense? So in that case, you don't know. You're not guaranteed to put your right-hand opponent on lead because you don't know that they hold the queen of diamonds. What if the third round is one on your left, right? Okay, well, that person theoretically might safely be able to lead a heart at this stage. But it didn't hurt to try it, right? You always had a diamond loser that you didn't have anything to do with. So yeah, give yourself every opportunity to, either for the opponents to make a defensive error, or maybe not an error, because in the case of an end play, the defense isn't making an error. You have given them no choice. So, does that make sense? So that would constitute a throw-in. All right. Well, let's look at a hand. So that you can actually see this executed. All right. By the way, we talk about in this